Hello, everyone. Welcome to our KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar, episode 12, aka the Banna Rippey Show. My name is Ryan Rippey. I'm the Customer Enablement Manager over here at KaiNexus, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Solutions Engineer, Matt Banna.
Can you believe we're under a boil notice still? You haven't been drinking any of the water out of the tap, have you?
No, it's ridiculous, though. How am I supposed to drink boiling water? I burned my mouth pretty bad last night.
You know what, Rip? I'm just going to take you to the store, and we're going to buy a bunch of bottled water.
They sell boiled water?
No, bottled water.
Ah, God. Did you know they also sell hard-boiled eggs? I mean, what an amazing idea.
If you don't know how to boil an egg, we have bigger problems here, okay?
Whatever, Banna. So for those of you new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is we plan to nerd out for the next half hour or so on a KaiNexus topic that we will share with everyone here in just a bit. The purpose of these webinars is for us to review the hottest topics and latest and greatest features suggested by you, our customers. So before I go ahead and reveal our topic for today, let's just go over some housekeeping items.
I was ready for the drum roll right there.
Not yet, Banna. Hold on. All right, so the webinar is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and send out the slides and recording to everyone after the webinar. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those into the chat box. We're going to do our best to answer those in real time as well as at the very end of the webinar if there's some time left over. Banna, now we can go ahead and get a slight drum roll before we reveal today's topic.
Let's jump the gun. I'm excited.
Today's webinar topic is 2.3 release. So earlier this month, we unveiled our latest. And so for today's webinar, Banna and I will be taking a look at some of the top new features in that release. Let's go ahead and see what we got on the agenda for today, Banna. No more drum rolls. No more drum rolls. You're done. You're cut off. All right. So let's take a look at what we got on the agenda for today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about our newly introduced kiosk mode. From there, we're going to jump into KaiNexus. We'll take a look at some of the email and notification redesign that I'm sure everyone has seen since logging in from the last release. We're going to talk about the Create button widget. This is a really cool feature. I'm excited to take a look at that today. Then we're going to go over some chart enhancements. So spoiler alert, the biggest chart enhancement is going to be chart annotations. A few other chart enhancements that we'll be taking a look at as well. So we'll get into that area of the platform. Then we're going to talk about impact credit splitting. And then finally, we will conclude with some report enhancements that were introduced in that 2.3 release as well. All right, Banna, are you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready.
All right, let's go ahead and we'll jump out of our deck here.
I was already rocking and rolling with those drum rolls right there.
Yeah, you were doing too much rocking. Let's take a look at, we got our kiosk mode up here, Banna. So why don't you talk a little bit about kiosk for us?
So we're proud to introduce a new add-on module of KaiNexus called Kiosk. Now, Kiosk mode provides the ability for users to easily select items from a kiosk without logging into KaiNexus. So this will remove technical barriers and allow more people to participate in continuous improvement, whether or not they use a computer in their daily work. Now, users need minimal training and can quickly submit items without disruption to their task. So we have a kiosk mode up right now. You can put it on a computer station. You can put it on an iPad.
Wherever you want to have that KaiNexus
Yep.
workstation. Yeah, I like it.
Absolutely. So we can go ahead and select our name from the dropdown. You can type it in. You can hit this dropdown here, pick out whichever name you want. Click on the type of item that you would like to submit.
Okay, so in this case, we'll be creating a simple improvement here.
And then enter it in, hit create, and then head back to work. It's that easy.
Nice.
Now, kiosk is perfect for work environments where employees don't work at a computer all day long, maybe on a shop floor or a shared workstation, for example. It's also great for regular or submitting items on the fly to come back to later. So, you know, if I'm working and I have a quick idea or something that I want to take a note on, I can come in, submit it, go back to work.
And kiosk mode can also be coupled with wallboard, Banna. So you can create, as I mentioned before, that KaiNexus station where people can come in, submit items, get an overview of what's going on in KaiNexus without actually having to go log into the system.
Yeah, if you're at our user conference, you can see that we had kiosk mode up and then we held wallboard right there. So people submitted ideas about what they wanted to see in KaiNexus, maybe something that they wanted to see about the user conference, and then it went up on that wallboard, and that wallboard was scrolling through. And if you have a touchscreen wallboard, you can even jump in, hit those ideas, see all the details of those ideas on that wallboard.
Awesome, and then kind of just run your daily huddles directly from what's coming in through those KaiNexus workstations.
Take off your sales hat here. We're explaining products.
No,
okay?
I love it. This is awesome.
So next we have our email notification redesign. So we've completely redesigned the look and feel of notifications at KaiNexus. On the left-hand side, you'll see our old notification layout. On our right-hand side, you'll see the new one. The first place you'll notice the change is in your email notifications. So this notification, we put them both on a board in our freestyle cards here. The second place you'll notice the change is in your in-app notifications. So jumping our notifications here, you'll see the change. Showing more information here provides context to each notification. It also means that you can work more efficiently without having to open up every improvement. You see more info here, you don't have to click in. Each notification will look similar to how an item will look on a detailed view on a card or a list, plus a little extra information there too.
Yeah, I love it. So the extra information, as you mentioned, Banna, here, just helps you kind of work through your notifications without necessarily having to go and click into these. One other small feature, so for those of you familiar with this notifications and updates window, there's a sort option here in the bottom left. We've just gone in and updated the tooltip here to help out with any confusion. Again, by default, when you come into your notifications and updates window, this is going to show you the newest notification at top. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a lot of notifications, you want to go ahead and take action on some of those outstanding items, you can go ahead and sort and get those oldest ones to show up at the top there for you. Speaking of tooltips though, Banna, the other thing I wanted to just take a quick look at is coming back to this email notification enhancements board you have here. Kind of taking a second pass here at the tooltips that you can have on boards. And so now when you've added that description on your boards, you'll see the little info icon next to the title of your board, and then that new the hover over or tooltip rather will show up there for you, just to give a little bit more context as to what that board is being used for in your organization.
Pretty cool, because now it doesn't block any of the other information on the board.
Yeah, so those small enhancements that just help the workflow run much smoother in KaiNexus.
So I'm going to head over to our audit board here. The next feature that we're going to talk about is our new Create button widget. Back in our 2.2.8 release, we unveiled widget cards, which allow you to visualize your threshold chart goals on a board. Now, we called it a widget card and not a goal card because we're going to add more features to that widget card. Now, this is the first of what will be many new features that are be available for this widget card. Now, we know we can utilize a widget card to display a create button on your board, making it easy for people to submit the right workflow. Each button can be configured so that only a certain templates are available, or so every item created through this button is automatically net parent. So here on this board, we have our audit board. We have all of our audit projects. We have some metrics and charts revolving around our audits. And then right here, we have our create audit button. So we can hit the create button.
And so here, as we can see, go ahead, Banna, as we create our audit here.
So we're going to create our, what's today, the 25th?
Yeah.
We can go in and select some of our weeklies.
And then the one other thing we want to mention is if we scroll down here, we see that the way that we've configured this specific audit, it automatically is going to be nested in a specific parent in the system. And so that's another thing that we can take advantage of. If we go ahead and create this, we'll be able to visualize that on that card that we have over here on the right-hand side. Let's take a look now over on the right-hand side card. So we can see our October 25th that you just added in there. So again, this is just a way to help make that workflow much easier, especially for those end users. If you go ahead and put that create widget card or the create button on your widget card rather, and just want to go ahead and create a simple workflow, make sure that it's rolling up to the specific parent that you want, just takes those extra and makes it a much simpler workflow for you.
Now, when you create that audit, just make sure that everybody has the appropriate permissions involved, because if you add a create button to a board and someone doesn't have the permissions, it won't even show up as a create button. It'll just be a blank card there. So make sure that all the permissions for everybody are in order for who you want to see that create button.
Good point there, Banna. All right, let's switch gears a little bit, Banna. I want to talk some chart enhancements from that 2.3 release. So let's jump over to our daily RIR. So we'll pull up our chart here. And so the first thing that I want to talk about, which it seems all of our users are extremely excited for, is chart annotations. And so just a little bit of background on chart annotations. This allows users to make notes and link items to specific data points on your charts. So in order to add an annotation, as you're working on your chart, simply click on one of your data points. And here is where you'll be able to come in here and add a specific annotation. So this could be, for example, a note, as I mentioned. You can also link items. So if you want to have maybe an improvement that's reflected on that annotation, you can do so as well. Now, you can also hover over those specific blue data points to see annotations that have been already added to your chart. So we see here, if I go ahead and hover over, we have, looks like an incident, slip and fall that's been added here to this particular annotation and this particular data point. So this is going to be a really great way, again, to link items, give a little bit more context onto those specific data points.
Some of that we can show exactly why that data point is over our lines here.
Exactly. And so to take a look at all of those annotations that you might have on your chart, just click the ellipses here in the top right and click on Show Annotations. And so this will give a list of all of those annotations that you currently have set up on your chart.
This really helps tell the story behind data by enhancing the visualization and the association of improvement as part of your KPIs.
Exactly. This allows you to draw parallels between your improvements and KPIs, gives you a little bit more context on your data points, again, using those specific linked items as well as the notes that you add in here. All right, Banna, what are we talking about next? So let's come back to this chart that we're working on here.
More chart enhancements.
More chart enhancements. We know that this is what everybody wants. So the next thing we want to talk about is the date range visualization charts. And so what we're going to talk about here is, when we realize that when charts start to have a lot of data, they become harder to read. And so with this feature, what we can do now is have the ability to set the date ranges that are going to show by default when you click into your chart. Okay, so let's actually come over to the ellipses here on our chart, and I'm going to edit my chart. I'm going to come into the advanced options on my chart, and we'll see at the very bottom we now have this visible date range section. Okay, so for example, if I maybe want to take a look at just the last 3 months worth of data when I come into my chart, I can come in here, and for starting, let's say maybe it's the last 3 months, and then when I go ahead and save this and then save all of the data in my chart, when we take a look at our chart now, we're going to only be showing the last 3 months worth of data here by default, and we now have this option over here on the left at the bottom to toggle the date range. And so toggling that date range, if we go ahead and select this, we'll switch it from the last 3 months to showing us all of the data that's currently on.
Before we started at July 28th, and now we're all the way back to July 2nd. So there's a lot more data here that we can include or exclude on that chart.
Exactly. And this can also be set up for your charts on a board, for example. So keep that in mind. If you have any of those KPIs that you're tracking on a board, you can set that up there as well. This will be really helpful when you want to isolate the small sections of a chart. Or maybe you're using the same chart year over year. You can still use that same chart and just show the last year's worth of data. A huge feature as a part of charts. I'm really excited for everybody. They've been asking for that for a long time. All right, Ben, I got one more chart enhancement I want to take a look at. Let's jump over to our projects board. So over here on the projects board, we also have a couple of new column options that are going to be available to you in List and Tree View. That's going to include your chart status bar and your chart in control percentage. So you can visualize these two columns here on this specific projects card. And so just a little bit of context, the chart status bar is similar to the project improvement and bars that everybody should be familiar with. This is going to allow you to see the status of all of your nested charts, right? So in this case, we have some charts that are nested within our project. We can just keep up with our charts, allow those leaders to run to the red. In this case, we see that one of our two charts here nested under this initiative safety project is overdue. So now we have that chart status bar that you can take advantage of. The other column over here is going to be that chart in control percentage. And so this is specifically is going to show you the percentage of those nested control charts that are currently in control. So in this case, we can see that 50% of those control charts, in this case, that are nested underneath our Initiative 3 project are currently in control. And so you can go in, take a look at those that are currently out of control. I'm sure you have the notifications. Sure, you have the notifications set up in your organization to be alerted to those, but this is just another way to help visualize those specifically. Again, whether it's in a list, on a board, you'll have those columns available to you in both list and tree view. All right, Banna, I think we're good on the chart enhancements. Take us over to org, and let's talk a little bit about the impact credit splitting and allocation.
This is definitely one of our top 5 most used items.
The storage org,
yeah.
I think everybody is pretty familiar with our storage org A3 here. So another feature that came out in the 2.2.8 release as part of the advanced ROI add-on module was our impact location splitting and allocation. So for anybody who doesn't remember that specific feature, this essentially allows you to associate impact between various locations within your organization. And so what we've done is we've taken this concept a step further with our impact credit splitting and allocation. And so this is going to actually allow you to recognize the impact of individual users on your improvement work.
Yeah, like when we do projects together, and then I should get all the credit because you're just along for the ride.
Yeah. Let's. This isn't a high school project, Banna. So let's come over to the resolution section here. When we submit our resolution and go ahead and say that, in this case, it does result in change. When we select yes here, we're now going to have this option here for set impact credit. So this can be turned on by default. It can be optional. We can configure that however you like.
You can make it required.
Exactly. So when measuring impact on a project or improvement, you can choose to split the financial impact and or the time savings amongst your team members. So what that's going to look like here is, let's say, for example, we added some revenue generation, come in here and add a specific value. Maybe it was $6,000 that the company brought in. We'll put in how we base the above calculation. Here's where that impact location I was talking about earlier comes into play. And so when I go ahead and save this, now what we can do is, you'll see here we can split that impact credit. And so if I come in here and select yes, what this is going to do by default here is grab those team members on this particular A3, and by default it goes in and breaks it up. In this case, 25% for the 4 members of our team. This is going to need to add up. But this is where you're going to be able to assign impact with such granularity that can help you track whether people are actually meeting maybe individual contribution impact targets that you have within your organization. So Banna, is it cool if I go ahead and complete this out? Is that gonna?
Yeah, be my guest.
Okay, thanks, man. Banna, why don't you talk a little bit about some of our report enhancements?
Sure. So I'm gonna finish completing this A3 for you.
Perfect. I always forget about the notifications. That's my fault.
I will, get part of that credit for completing the job there. So we have a number of report enhancements, including the ability to report across team roles on a user impact report. So we're going to head over to our impact and then our user impact report here.
And so what we can do here, Banna, now is this wasn't available before, but now we can start to multi-select across these different team roles. So if you want to see your impact specific to those items that you're an author on, as well as they're responsible, you can go ahead and just be able to select that here on this report. The other thing I want to point out, Banna, is, yep, you're one step ahead of me, the show credit. So of course, having that impact credit splitting and allocation on, it's going to allow you to, of course, be able to report on that. So in this case, coming in, checking that show credit, you'll be able to take a look at your individual users and the specific time savings and costs or revenue that they've been attributed through that impact splitting and allocation.
Yeah, here's Henry's $1,500 from our storage org A3 earlier.
Perfect. That's right. We had the 4 people with 6,000, and so that's math.
I can do math.
I can't, so I appreciate that.
Next, we're going to head over to our location impact and engagement reports. And so we have a new button. We can aggregate our location and below right here. Selecting this option will show all data rolled up to the top level location. So if we select this, it'll roll up everything into that next location above it. So we can even use our location nav bar here on the side to help us
kind of visualize how that's actually being rolled up within the organization.
Exactly.
Yep. And the other thing, Banna, that I want to point out is part of the report enhancements within this release was adding advanced filters to a lot of our impact reports and activity reports. So in addition to what you just pointed out with the aggregating location and below, there's also the little filter icon here where we can come with some advanced filters on this report. I'm actually going to go over to another report in the system where this is available. Let's actually use the location project cycle time report.
See, I was jumping ahead before.
Yeah, no, you were trying to steal my thunder there. So the reason I came over to this is, from just a use case standpoint, let's say, for example, you're working on, you have an A3 type of project in your organization, and maybe there's some other types of projects that you have as well. Right now, this is taking into account all of those projects, so averaging the project cycle time between all projects. So if you use, for example, the advanced filter here and come in and choose for a specific type, this would allow you to see, oh, okay, what's going to be my, my location project cycle time specifically for those A3s within my organization. So again, this is just making our reports even more powerful. You can drill down into the different project and improvement types, statuses, dates, all that fun stuff in here. All right, Banna, I actually have some bonus content that I want to sneak in. This is the first time we've done this. So shout out to all of our quality admins.
Oh, sorry.
Enough with the drum roll. Shout out to all of our quality admins who are today. I'm going to jump over to the admin section here. So one thing I want to point out, you'll notice underneath organization that standard work and weighted scores are now customer facing. So a little round of applause for that.
There we go.
So everyone who came to our user conference in August should be pretty familiar with these features.
And if you haven't, you should definitely be there next year.
So the standard work is going to let you pre-populate workflows with frequent items to help standardize any improvement methodology. So essentially, you'll be able to create projects and improvements with specific to-do items that are automatically nested. So if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of, we have a lot of training material. Please reach out to your customer experience representative to take full advantage of that. But it is now customer facing, and so you can go in there and start to play around with that. Same goes for our weighted scores feature. With the weighted scores, this is going to allow leaders to create a weighted scoring system. And so your organization will be able to score things such as complexity, risk, priority, all that fun stuff. Based off of a predetermined criteria that you might use within your organization. So just wanted to point that out. Those were two big features that were in a beta phase, and some people were taking advantage of them. We've now pushed those live. They are customer facing. So anybody with a quality admin permission will be able to check out the standard work and our weighted scores.
Very cool.
Banna, why don't you, let's see if we have any questions that came through. Doesn't look like I see anything here. So Banna, why don't you go ahead and take us out, my man?
Now, if you have any questions later, we know I don't have any now. If you have any questions later and need assistance with configuration on the features that we covered here or anything else in KaiNexus, please reach out to your KaiNexus customer experience representative. Also, we definitely encourage you to check out our support site here at support.kainexus.com. It's like the Google of KaiNexus. You can search for everything you want. We're continually adding new pages and better explanations of how to use any of the features.
This is the place to go to become a KaiNexpert.
It is.
Name drop.
Rippey loves his puns. Sign up for our next training team office hours webinar at the end of November. It'll be our last show of the year, so make sure you tune in.
Oh,
Are you crying?
No, I'm not crying. It's just I got something in my eye, man.
Additionally, join me as I guest host for the Mark Graben on Halloween with a webinar titled Metrics and Statistics Don't Have to Be talking about part of his book, Measures of Success, React Less, Lead Better, Improve More. Now, I know I'm reading it right now. It's super easy to read. He, brings everything down to maybe a
Rippey level.
A Rippey level.
Thanks, man.
Anybody can understand it. Makes it super easy to know how to use all of these statistics.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the time today. As always, we hope this material is beneficial. We love to continue to see everybody show up to these webinars. Go ahead, Banna.
Well, you can find us on Twitter and LinkedIn. Make sure you send us some feedback. He's Ryan Rippey.
And he's Matt Banna.
Have a spooktacular Halloween.
And we'll see you next time.